After watching this, you're never going to want to eat McDonald's foods again, because we're going to dive into what is actually inside of the foods and how the main person, the top dog in charge of McDonald's, won't even swallow his own food. Now, with all this in mind, I'm going to be drinking my home brewed coffee, something that I know exactly what has inside of it. Let me know what you guys are drinking. Thank you so much for subscribing. Now, let's dive in.
A single clip has just become the most viral corporate disaster in fast food history. This is the video that's been seen by hundreds of millions of people of Chris Kempinski, the global CEO of McDonald's, trying his own product.
Chris K here with, you've heard about it, here it is, the Big Arch. I love this product. It is so good. I'm gonna do a tasting right now, but I'm gonna eat this for my lunch, just so you know.
Okay. So a few things that are said right there. First of all, he calls it a product, not a burger, not a sandwich. He calls it a product. That's either a very corporate thing to say, or just maybe he knows that it's not actually food. Then notice that he said, I'm going to take a bite of it now and then I'm going to eat it later for my lunch. So he's actually not even going to eat the entire thing or a decent amount of it on camera, which, as you'll see later on inside of the video, other food franchises have no problem doing it with their own foods.
So here we go. First, holy cow. God, that is a big burger. All right, the moment of truth.
Okay, first of all, that bite is not massive. Now, maybe he's a very small-mouthed man. I don't know, but that was a pretty small bite.
That is so good. It's a delicious product.
He calls it a product.
Yeah.
Not food, a product. He took the smallest bite anyone's ever seen. The camera then immediately cuts, so we never actually see him swallow it. Then he tells us he'll finish the rest, quote, off camera. This has sent the internet into a frenzy. This Irish comedian's breakdown of it has over 10 million views.
Yeah, give me 2 burger product, please. This man does not eat McDonald's. He looks like he would try and read the ingredients on the back of a banana.
I'm gonna do a tasting right now, but I'm gonna eat this for my lunch, just so you know.
All right, so he says, I'm going to do a tasting of this now, and I'm going to eat it for my lunch, just so you know, if you were just curious as to why maybe I'm not eating the whole burger right now.
He's making excuses as to why he's not going to eat the burger. I will allow the product to enter at a later date during my lunch. It's been tested on the Canadians. I'm not afraid of it.
Even the biggest news channels in the world have dedicated full segments to it.
Also tonight in the business world, some business beef, you could call it. Business burger beef, if we're going to be super alliterative about it. This is the head of McDonald's. Watch this.
That's a big bite for a big arch.
Okay, so maybe you see a McDonald's CEO taking a bite of a burger. Maybe you see the McDonald's CEO taking what you believe to be a tiny bite of a large burger. Whatever, it went viral. People have a lot of thoughts and a lot of hot takes on it.
Every rival chain on the planet has been lining up to take their shot.
Okay, so here we go. This is Burger King diving into their burger. This is someone who is not scared to eat their own food.
Not bad, right?
Only one thing missing. A napkin.
Amazing. Absolutely wonderful.
Look at this guy. Look at him dive in.
That's a burger. This is exactly the way a great hamburger should be.
Minnie says, we're going to start test driving our cars 1 meter at a time. Aldi says, yes, Diva, give us nothing, with a little clap emoji.
This one video has been seen hundreds of millions of times, maybe even billions at this point. This may be the biggest self-own in fast food history. But it gets worse. You know what the internet's like. The second a scandal like this breaks, they go back and dig up everything. Here is what they found.
Now, here's the problem. McDonald's, and actually all of this fast food, now, I'm a pretty healthy guy. Let me give you a little context. For those of you that probably don't know me from before my YouTube years, I was a personal trainer. I went to school for health and phys ed, and I taught for 15 years teaching health and phys ed. My life was surrounded with being a healthy person, and I still pride myself in being fairly healthy. I still love myself some fast food. I don't have it often at all, maybe twice a year, but I really do enjoy it. It tastes amazing, and McDonald's is probably my favorite. Now, having something in moderation, so diving into a McDonald's hamburger a couple of times a year, once a month, it's not gonna do anything bad for you. You're okay, because it's in moderation. having these types of foods on a regular basis, that's when things come into problem. But now let's see, because they actually dive deeper into the history of this man eating his own products. Let's see what he does with other items.
This is Chris eating a McDonald's chicken sandwich 2 years ago. Watch what he does the second he takes a bite.
Yeah.
It goes straight to the napkin. No one can tell me he swallowed that burger. He also did something similar with the McCrispy strips taste test. He takes a bite and keeps talking with the chicken sitting in the side of his cheek. Again, the camera cuts and he never swallows it on camera.
You gotta believe that as the CEO running the whole darn company, you could at least swallow the bite of food that you're eating of your own product, just to, even if you know that it's not the best stuff, just to make it look good on camera.
Only one thing missing. A napkin.
The internet has found countless clips like this. This got me thinking, if the man who gets paid $20 million a year to sell this won't eat it on camera, what's actually going on? So I did some digging. Well, actually a lot of digging. I went deep into the trenches and I looked at every single ingredient that are in McDonald's products. Sorry, I mean food. What I found was insane. Honestly, I don't know how most of these ingredients are even legal.
Technically illegal ingredients. That's crazy.
Let's start with the most iconic meal in fast food.
Big Mac.
Big Mac, fries, and milkshake. First up, we have the Big Mac. According to the McDonald's website, the Big Mac is made up of 7 components. The Big Mac bun, the 100% beef patty, shredded lettuce, Big Mac sauce, pasteurized processed American cheese, pickle slices, and onions. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, right? Well,
No.
There's a reason that I very carefully selected my words and called these components, not ingredients. That's because between these 7 components, there are actually 80 ingredients. Now, I know my accent sounds a little bit funny to some of you. So, just to clarify, I said 80. So, let's take a good look at what they're actually putting in this. In the bun, there's an ingredient called folic acid. This is marketed as a B vitamin, something that is supposedly healthy. But folic acid is entirely synthetic. It doesn't exist anywhere in nature. What does exist in nature is folate. This is an essential nutrient. Your body takes folate and converts it into something called methylfolate, which is critical for brain function, mood regulation, and focus. So, why is folic acid a problem?
Now, for a little bit more context here, typically things that are not created in nature are not intended to be consumed. They're not natural, they're man-made, they're processed, they're made by science. This is why when many people go on more natural eating diets, they're eating things that come from the earth. Fruits, vegetables, meats, things that are not processed, eating more like a caveman, which is the way things were intended, right?
Estimated 40 to 60% of people carry a mutation in a gene called MTHFR, the gene responsible for producing methylfolate. This means their body cannot physically convert folic acid into usable methylfolate. So their body thinks it's getting folate and never bothers to make the real form. This results in a folate deficiency. This is why so many people report dramatic improvements in mood, focus, and anxiety levels when they simply remove folic acid from their diet. Many scientists speculate that a high percentage of mental health issues stem directly from this folate deficiency. And if you think that's bad, wait till you hear about this next ingredient in the pickles. The pickles contain a preservative called potassium sorbate. Now when you hear how this ingredient works, it kind of sounds like it's doing you a favor.
And you're thinking, pickles? The pickles are what I need to worry about inside of a Big Mac. That would have been one of the last things, minus the lettuce, which, if you actually take a look, the lettuce is the one thing that, and the onions are the 2 things that have only one ingredient because they are natural from the earth.
But it's certainly not. It's there to kill mold and bacteria. The problem is it's not selective the way it does this. A 2019 study by Hershey's-Over found that the gut bacteria most vulnerable to food preservatives were specifically the ones with anti-inflammatory properties. The bacteria linked to chronic inflammation were found to be significantly more resistant. So this preservative is shifting the balance of your gut toward a more inflammatory state every time you consume it, which then can lead to digestive issues, a weakened immune system, and even changes in your mood and mental health. A 2010 study by Mamor also found potassium sorbate caused DNA strand breaks in human cells at every single concentration tested after just 1 hour of exposure. The next ingredient is soybean oil, and this might be the worst of the lot. This is one of the main ingredients in the Big Mac sauce, and there's even some in the buns. Soybean oil is made by soaking crushed soybeans in a petrochemical solvent called hexane. The EPA classifies hexane as a hazardous air pollutant. It's used in rubber cement, shoe glue, and industrial degreasers.
And inside of your Big Mac sauce.
Here's the thing, because the FDA classifies it as a processing aid, it never needs to appear on the label. You will never see hexane listed on any food product you buy. But the processing isn't even the worst part. Soybean oil is over 50% linoleic acid, a polyunsaturated fat. Polyunsaturated fats are chemically unstable, which means they oxidize very easily when exposed to oxygen or heat. And when they oxidize, they produce toxic compounds called aldehydes, specifically one called 4-HNE. Aldehydes damage cell membranes, trigger chronic inflammation, and interfere with mitochondrial function. What this means in real terms is that your cells cannot produce energy properly, which slows down your metabolism and leaves you feeling sluggish, foggy, and drained. A 2020 study out of UC Riverside found soybean oil dysregulated roughly 100 genes in the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus is a small but vital part of the brain that essentially acts as the body's control center. The genes soybean oil was found to dysregulate are the genes tied to appetite, metabolism, and even social behavior. So for the dudes watching this video, it may be that the reason you cannot talk to women is due to your Big Mac consumption. Okay, maybe that's a stretch. But the lead researcher, Poonamjot Diol, did state that if there's one message he wants people to take away, it's that they definitely need to reduce their consumption of soybean oil. Soybean oils inflame your entire body, slow your metabolism down, and make you hungrier.
And this is not something that's new. We've known this about soybean oils for a long time. And now you'll see packaging that even states that this product was made without soybean oil. I'm talking like 20 years it's been known, but it is still hiding in many things that we see in fast food, in this case specifically McDonald's.
This is definitely not something you want to be eating. In the cheese, there is an ingredient called color added. Now with this ingredient, unfortunately I can't actually tell you what it is. And that right there is the problem. It literally says color added. There is absolutely no specification.
So the color added, what is the color that's being added? Not what color, but what chemicals are making that color is what he's trying to get at.
Now this could be annatto, which is an extract from a plant, or it could be an artificial color like yellow 5, a synthetic dye made from petroleum. The EU actually requires a warning label on all products containing yellow 5. This is due to research showing that it may affect activity and attention in children. A study published in The Lancet by researchers at Southampton University found artificial food colorings increased hyperactivity at a population level. Several countries have restricted or banned them, but the FDA just lets McDonald's write color added, so we don't actually know what is making our cheese yellow. These are just 4 of the 80 ingredients in the Big Mac. Of those 80, only about 10 are actual foods. The rest are additives, emulsifiers, preservatives, and chemicals.
Let's take a look at that for a second. Out of 80 ingredients in a meal that you get from, or in a Big Mac itself, this isn't even including the whole meal, 10 ingredients are real food. 70 things inside of our meal, out of 80, are not actually intended to be ingested at all.
At least 9 are derived from or extracted using petroleum.
Wow.
And others are literally fermented from genetically modified black mold. Now, everything we've talked about so far, that is just the burger.
Yeah.
And honestly, compared to what comes next, the Big Mac is almost the healthy option. Because McDonald's fries may actually be the most unhealthy food on the planet. McDonald's fries contain 11 ingredients. Only 2 of them are real food: potatoes and salt. The other 9 are processed additives, including 4 highly processed oils, and 1 ingredient with a $10 million lawsuit behind it. Let's start with the one that is only there due to a $10 million lawsuit. It's called natural beef flavor. Now, back in the 90s, McDonald's was cooking their fries in beef tallow, but they didn't disclose this. So vegetarians and Hindus, whose religion prohibits beef, sued them. McDonald's paid out $10 million, switched from beef tallow to vegetable oil, so they added this natural beef flavor to keep the taste. Since then, people have wanted to know, what is this actually made from? And on multiple occasions, McDonald's has responded with very generic answers that don't actually answer the question. According to their website, it contains hydrolyzed wheat and hydrolyzed milk as starting ingredients. This really could mean absolutely anything. Based on what we've already seen in McDonald's burgers, who actually knows what this is, and more importantly, what damage could it be doing?
And what's a starting ingredient? Does that mean starting the process to create the flavor, or is it just the initial ingredients put in?
So that's the next ingredient. It's a mystery one. Next up, there's sodium acid pyrophosphate. This exists in the fries for one single reason. So the fries don't go grey. That's literally it. That's the only reason it's in there for.
And if you've seen McDonald's fries 5 years, 10 years after, or even a McDonald's burger, after they were made, keep them packaged, put them in the bag and throw them in the closet for 10 years, those burgers and those fries will come out looking the same. Not moldy, not disgusting. They look the same.
Now, what makes additive phosphates like this one so problematic is that they're absorbed at nearly 100%. The average person already consumes 2 to 3 times the recommended phosphate intake. And most of this actually comes from additives exactly like this. This appears to be very problematic. Research published in EMBO Molecular Medicine found that elevated phosphate levels act as a toxin that accelerates aging in studies where animals are fed high phosphate diets. What we see is that the animals have a significantly shortened lifespan. In my opinion, the way these fries are cooked makes them the most unhealthy food on the planet. The fries are cooked in a blend of canola, corn, and soybean oil. These are all seed oils high in polyunsaturated fat. And yes, earlier I talked about what these polyunsaturated fats do to your cells, but there's a reason why they are so much worse when it comes to fries. People will tell you these oils are safe to cook with because they have a high smoke point. The smoke point of these oils is around 230 degrees Celsius. Now, smoke point is the temperature where the oil starts to visibly smoke. But here's what they don't tell you. With polyunsaturated fats, they don't wait till the smoke point before they start to break down. Instead, due to their unstable structure, they begin oxidizing and producing toxic aldehydes at temperatures far below that. After just 30 minutes of sustained heating, the toxic byproducts in these oils increase tenfold.
And when you think about it, think about the fries that are being cooked in the oil, that oil is going all day long. That boiling pot of oil is boiling all day long. So if it only takes 30 minutes to get to that point where it's releasing toxins, by the time your fries get dipped in, that's already going.
McDonald's is cooking these fries at around 170 to 190 degrees. So the oil isn't smoking, which makes a lot of people think it's fine. But it is quietly breaking down the entire time. And here's the thing. According to McDonald's employees, this oil is only changed every 7 to 10 days. Now sure, it is filtered daily, but filtering only removes food debris. It certainly does not remove oxidized fat molecules or these toxic aldehydes. So you've got polyunsaturated seed oils being heated and reheated for up to 10 days straight. That is accumulating more and more toxic breakdown products with every single batch of fries. Now the problem with these fats is they don't just pass straight through you. Instead, they get absorbed into your blood, your organs, and actually every single cell in your body.
Now, one question that I would have is, all food chains, Burger King, Wendy's, McDonald's, let's use those three. I would assume that they all use the same oils. Even places like a KFC and Pudgy's Chicken, they deep fry all of their chicken. You would think that they're all utilizing the same kinds of oils. I could be wrong there. If you know different, let me know.
Key analysis found that linoleic acid in American adults' fat tissue has increased by over 133% between 1959 and 2008.
Hence our obesity problem that we have here in the United States.
This directly mirrors the increase in seed oil consumption. When these unstable fats get incorporated into your cells, your very own cells become a source of ongoing oxidative damage. Finally, we have the chocolate shake. This used to be my favorite thing from McDonald's. I would have these things all the time, so it pains me to see what's actually in this. The McDonald's chocolate milkshake is made from 3 components: vanilla reduced fat ice cream, chocolate syrup, and whipped cream. Between them, there are 26 ingredients. Of these 26, you can count the real foods on one hand: milk, cream, cocoa, water, and salt. The rest are sugars, syrups, emulsifiers, gums, preservatives, and one ingredient that is technically illegal, but due to a loophole, it isn't. First, there's the ridiculous sugar content. A medium chocolate milkshake contains 85 grams of sugar.
Let's be fair. We knew A few things already. One, we knew milkshakes have a lot of sugar. Whenever you go get any ice cream or anything like that, you know you're going to be having a ton of sugar, probably a lot of fat as well. We know that Big Macs and the fries have a ton of fat and the bad fat, so that's not something new. It's all of these fake items that make it crazy. But look at the number of lollipops are actually 85 grams of sugar.
That's over 21 teaspoons. This level of
Not lollipops, teaspoons. Sorry.
sugar in one sitting causes a massive spike in your blood sugar. When your blood sugar spikes like this, it results in a massive crash hours later. This state is called reactive hypoglycemia. And when this occurs, your body thinks it has run out of energy in the form of stored body fat. So it panics and sends you intense hunger and craving signals. Your body essentially tries to force you to eat again. Think back to the last time you had a sugary meal and how come just a few hours later you were hangry and had very low energy levels. This right here is why.
Who here gets hangry? Be honest. Are you someone that gets hungry and it puts him in a bad mood? From time to time, that could be me.
American Heart Association recommends no more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day, which even that is a lot. But in one medium milkshake, you are consuming more than double that. Now with this next ingredient, nobody was paying real attention to it until last year. The ice cream and whipped cream both contain an ingredient called carrageenan. Now up until last year, there was some concerns due to what it did in animal studies, but it's only this year we've had the first studies done on humans. This ingredient is extracted from red seaweed using a hot alkaline chemical process. It's used as a thickener, which as the name suggests is to make the shake thick. In 2024, researchers at the German Diabetes Center published the first ever human trial on carrageenan. They found it weakens the lining of the small intestine. This increases intestinal permeability, meaning undigested food particles, bacteria and toxins that are supposed to stay inside your gut begin to start leaking into your bloodstream. Once they're in your blood, they trigger an immune response and systemic inflammation. Now this ingredient has been the chocolate milkshake for a long time, but because this study was only done a couple of years ago, and it was only really last year that people started to talk about the study, it's only now that people are starting to be a little bit concerned about this ingredient.
Now, this is bringing up another whole topic in itself that I need to address with all of you. These milkshakes have been being served by McDonald's for centuries. And just a few years ago, they did the study and determined that this ingredient that he was just discussing is actually really bad for us. Even though it's still allowed in there now because of the loophole, it's been in there for years. And this is something that is never spoken about in the industry. A lot of times, different foods that we consume are put out on the market. They are tested and tested and tested for years and years. If they find a problem, they alert that problem, they continue to test it for more and more years before they finally put out a statement that something needs to be changed. So it's not abnormal to have something that's really negative for our bodies to be available for us for consumption for 10 plus years before it's actually addressed, which tells me, sure, I'll be able to keep my kids from eating that, but I've been eating it all along and I'm going to definitely be dealing with the negative effects of that ingredient.
Both the ice cream and whipped cream also contain mono and diglycerides. These are the sneakiest ingredients in this entire video. They're classified as emulsifiers, not fats. And that classification is very important because in 2018, the FDA banned trans fats. They declared them not generally recognized as safe because the evidence was overwhelming that trans fats significantly increase the risk of heart disease, stroke, and type 2 diabetes.
This was another thing that we were seeing on the packaging of food saying trans fats free, which is now, I believe, everything. I don't think trans fats can be in any of our foods here in the United States, but the soybean oils can, which are pretty bad as well.
Even in small amounts. But the FDA only recognizes fats in triglyceride form as dietary fats. Mono and diglycerides are a different molecular form. So on technical grounds, mono and diglycerides are exempt from this ban. And here's the thing, mono and diglycerides can contain up to 60% trans fatty acids. So even though trans fats are banned, this compound, which can be mostly trans fats, is somehow still legal. Now you might be wondering, how on earth did all of these ingredients become approved for human consumption? How on earth did the FDA investigate and approve ingredients that are derived from petrol, have countless studies showing they're problematic, and even allow fast food to last decades without going off.
Tell me, is McDonald's in the government's pockets?
There's actually countless videos of people who have had McDonald's for 20 plus years, and the food, well, products I should probably say, still looks the exact same as when they bought it.
This is what I mentioned earlier on inside of the video. I've seen this multiple times on different social media platforms of different people having a burger like you're looking at right here that's 10, even as far as I think 20 or 25 years old in the original packaging. That burger did not mold, it did not disintegrate, it did not rot. It is just there, like a piece of plastic.
The answer to how all of these foods somehow got approved is that they didn't. The FDA has a loophole in its ingredient approval criteria called GRAS, which stands for Generally Recognized as Safe.
Generally.
In 1958, the government started requiring FDA approval for new food chemicals. But through this GRAS system, they exempted about 700 obvious ingredients, like salt and pepper, that they believed clearly didn't need a full review. That was reasonable. But by 1997, the FDA could no longer keep up with the backlog from companies submitting new ingredients.
1997. Never said this before, but that's the year I graduated high school, for those of you that are still here in the video.
So they replaced mandatory approval with a voluntary system. And here's where things get insane. Under this system, a food company can hire its own panel of experts, have them review their own safety data. And if that panel says the ingredient is safe, the company can start putting it in your food immediately. They don't even have to tell the FDA that they've done it. A 2013 study published in JAMA Internal Medicine looked at 451 of these GRAS safety determinations and found that every single one, all 451, relied on expert opinions from either manufacturer employees or consultants hired by the manufacturer. That Big Mac, fries, and chocolate shake contain 80 ingredients, of which around 36 of them are chemical additives. And of those 36, at least 6 entered the food supply through this exact self-affirmation pathway. What this means is that they have never actually been investigated by the FDA. That is extremely concerning. But here's the thing that really changed how I see McDonald's. It's how they make sure that you keep coming back for more. It all starts from before you can read.
Talk about the craving, right? There are so many people that just crave McDonald's fries. Now, he's going to get into the whole marketing and advertising side of things, which is also very important. You know, getting kids to fall in love with McDonald's is a reason that we had like Grimace and Ronald McDonald and all the crew and Happy Meals, etc. But there is an addictive factor to McDonald's where it's just so, it makes you feel so good initially. It tastes so good initially. You just want more.
From a young age, McDonald's is pushed to children. In fact, McDonald's is responsible for over 70% of all fast food TV commercials viewed by children.
Wow.
The average preschooler is watching nearly 3 McDonald's ads every single day, before they can even read. There's also the Happy Meal.
I gotta say, McDonald's is amazing at marketing. They have characters, they have Happy Meals, they advertise like crazy. Many things that are successful in our world here in the United States are because of marketing.
Which comes with a toy. McDonald's actually distributes 1.5 billion toys every year. That's 4 million toys a day. They are literally the world's #1 toy distributor.
Wow.
And this method, it works. 40% of parents say their child asks to go to McDonald's at least once per week. And there's one study that shows just how deep this really goes. In 2007, Stanford researchers gave 63 preschoolers identical food. The exact same French fries, the exact same chicken nuggets. One group received their food in plain wrappers. The other group, however, received theirs in McDonald's packaging. 77% of the kids said the McDonald's wrapped fries tasted better.
And I'll tell you this, when I was a kid, I didn't like chicken nuggets, but I loved chicken McNuggets. There was a difference in me, in my brain, in my mind, on what chicken nuggets tasted like and chicken McNuggets. Now, maybe they did taste different, but I knew that when I was a kid, I wanted chicken McNuggets, and I was not interested in no dino nuggets.
They even put baby carrots, which McDonald's doesn't actually sell, inside McDonald's wrappers. The kids preferred those carrots too. Their branding is so powerful, it literally changes how children perceive taste. They make it so that every kid in the world wants McDonald's. And then what they do is manipulate your biology, so when you have some, you want more. Have you ever noticed that you can eat an entire large fries and still not feel full? That right there, it's engineered. The texture is designed to dissolve so quickly that your brain literally does not register the energy it's getting from it.
This is another reason why, a little general food tip here, and I do this all the time. I'll go downstairs and I'll have some lunch. Sometimes I have a protein shake for lunch. Sometimes I have a sandwich. And if I stay in my kitchen, I will want to continue eating. I'll eat my sandwich. I'll say, oh, I should have some pretzels or, some type of a chip alongside of it because I'm still hungry. If you walk away for 10 minutes, you are no longer hungry because that food is going to go through your body. It's going to register inside of your brain and say, okay, I'm full. I don't need more. So that's why they say before you go for seconds at dinner or before you hang out in the kitchen the whole time that you're eating, give your body the time to register the food that you've consumed so that you can then, if you're still hungry, sure, go have some more food if you need it, but don't eat it if your body's already replenished and feeling good.
This is called vanishing caloric density, and it's why you can reach the bottom of the bag wondering where it all went. And the flavor, that's not an accident either. Your brain is wired to get bored of any single taste. If the fries were just salty, you'd stop after a handful. So they layer savory, sweet, salty, and acidic. So your palate never fatigues. You never get that, alright, I guess I'm done now signal. Every bite feels like the first. This is called sensory specific satiety. And what about when you take a bite and you get that insane sense of pleasure? This is precision engineered by a Harvard psychiatrist named Howard Moskowitz. He ran hundreds of formula variations to find the exact ratio of sugar, salt, and fat that is able to trigger the maximum dopamine release. The industry calls it the bliss point, and when this is achieved, it activates the same reward pathway that cocaine does. And here's the thing. These are just the strategies that we know about. Take a guess at how much McDonald's spends every single year on research and development to engineer their food. Would it be 100 million? 200 million? Well, according to their financial statements, it's actually zero. Yep, that's correct. Every single year, McDonald's, in order to make their food more addictive, spends a total of $0. Now, does anyone actually believe that? Of course not. What they do is outsource all of their food science to third-party flavor companies. Companies most people have never heard of. These companies are part of a $30 billion global industry that employs thousands of chemists whose entire job is to find the exact formulation that makes you unable to stop eating. By funneling this job through suppliers, McDonald's keeps zero on the books, and as a result, there is no paper trail or accountability.
Now, how do you feel about chemists being a part of the decision making on what goes into our foods?
Industry estimates suggest they're spending anywhere between $50 to $100 million a year on making their food as addictive as possible. But none of this shows up in their public findings. They have somehow convinced the world that by eating roughly 100 ingredients in one sitting, it counts as food. But the truth is far from that. When you walk under those golden arches into a McDonald's, you certainly are not buying food. Instead, what you're really buying, it can only be described in one word. And that word is, actually, you know what? Let's let Chris handle this one.
I love this product.
Product. He loves this product. Now, all of the information is presented. We have known McDonald's is not a food, a product that we should be eating. It is bad for us. How many of you will have McDonald's in the next 30 days?